Hi, everybody. I wanted to run you through this week's assignments real quick. First, I wanted to tell you, you may think that the activity stream is your friend, but it's really not. Because if you click on the activity stream, what you're going to see there, yes, you can get to the assignments immediately, but you're missing all the instruction. So you really are not doing yourself a favor if you're going straight there. So let's do it the way I want you to do it, all right? So go to Courses, click on your class, and then each week you start by clicking on the course content. Click on the course content, and then when you click on the course content, you click on the module that you're going to be working on now. So for this week, that's going to be 2 modules, microscopy and cell cycle genetics. Click on microscopy, and then the video I'm taking right now is right here. I'm going to put that right there. And what you're going to see is you've got a little bit of an overview, what the kinds of things are we're going to do, a summary of the items you're supposed to do. Then the items that basically a little summary of everything. The lab handout can be found here, and if you click here, you get to a folder that contains all of the yes, you do. You get to a folder that contains the lab handouts, the PowerPoints, and the question sets. And this item is linked a couple of times. You click on lab handouts, and then you've got 2 versions of the lab handout, the PDF and the Word document. In this case, the Word document may be more useful. And then the lab handout goes through background information, all the things you need to know to do this week's lab. And then it shows you all the activities, and then it gets to the parts where the questions are. The question set is the part of the lab handout that basically pulls out just the secondary part, the question set. All right, then you in the next section of the course content, you get to the background information, and then there's a lecture that goes over the lab handout, explains some of the things, walks you through the background material, walks you through the kinds of things, tries to explain to you how these things are. So this is where the teaching happens, and you really try not to shortchange yourself by not watching these, because I'm really trying to explain these things to you. This is time well spent. Then the demonstration video goes over the activities you're going to do. It explains to you what you're supposed to do, what we would be doing in the lab. And especially for the microscopy lab, there's a lot of things that you're going to miss because we don't have a microscope in front of us, right? So if you've never worked with a microscope, go look at these videos. The wet mount, you don't necessarily have to watch this, but if you're somebody who does better when you see what's going on, go look at that. This is how a wet mount is being made. There's a virtual microscope site where you can actually play with what it looks like under the microscope. And this is a different microscope site where I actually did the letter E activity with a virtual microscope, but we don't have access to this virtual microscope anymore because it was done with Flash, and Flash has been disabled. And then there's the depth of focus video to try to help you understand how to do that assignment. In the Google Microscopy site, if you click on it, and sometimes you have to click on the microscopy part, there's different videos, slide mount, wet mount, how the letter E works under the scope. That's the microscope that doesn't work anymore. And then there's a couple of preparations that you're looking at, that we would be looking at in the lab, that you should take a look at. You should take a look at these pictures. All right, and then you do, and then you go through, this is under the to-do part, the activities, is where everything happens that you're supposed to do. Now, note initially there's no quiz visible or no handout question set. Those will become visible once you look at the materials. And sadly, Blackboard doesn't do this by themselves. So you need to go and click Mark Reviewed on these items here that need to be reviewed. So when you've looked at the lab handout, mark it as reviewed. When you've looked at the lecture, mark it as reviewed. When you look at the demo, mark it as reviewed. And then there's another item that you have to mark as reviewed, which is the question set right here. And once you mark these items as reviewed, then you see under the, hang on, let me go scroll down. Under the activities, you see the lecture quiz and you see the handout quiz. So the lecture quiz, you just click on, and those are questions from the lecture. The handout quiz are the questions from the question set. So you can simply, you don't have to turn in the question set if there's a question set quiz, if it doesn't specifically say, hey, turn in the question set quiz. And that's it for the microscopy part of this week. Oh, Labster, sorry. There is a Labster activity. There is a Labster activity here. There's a link to a manual if you want to read that, but you don't have to turn this manual in at all. So you just click on this activity, and then you just follow through with this activity. There's an optional video. It really is just a short animated video of the story of Antony van Leeuwenhoek. It's a fascinating story, but that's optional. It's only if you want to do it. And that should walk you through pretty much what we're doing today. The most difficult thing about this week's materials, and I'll go real quick to the handout, is where you're doing a calculation with the microscope, which is right here. People struggle with that more than with anything else. There is a video, so I go over it in the demo, but there's also a video of this right here in the on the Google site. So see if you can get through it. There's also an explanation of osmosis on the Google site. So those are the things that are the osmosis and the measuring of the microscope are probably the two most difficult things this week. And those I have extra videos for. So have fun with the microscope this week and ask if you have any questions, but please review the material before you start emailing me. And like I said, this video is going to be available, and there's going to be a video like that every single week. So watch this video first. It should walk you through most of the things you need to know.